I'll just bring up.
Bless you, James.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this month's Future Teacher on using rich media, particularly video, in teaching and learning. Now, just very quickly to show you, there are recordings. This is our third time through, so there are previous recordings from previous sessions, and they've got all sorts of speakers, all sorts of content there that are really well worth looking at as well. So there's 2018, 2021, sorry. And then as soon as we've finished this session, we'll upload and you'll have the link in the Future Teacher mailing list within the next few days. And just to remind you, we also have an accompanying resource which you can view, and that's got all sorts of background information, background links, and so on. And it's got really easy navigation down the bottom right to find your way through. Lots of good material there that you might also want to look at. The speakers we have today are going to be taking over. They're the key part of this meeting, so we'll take very little time on anything else other than giving you a little bit of background as to what people have been asking for. Lillian will talk through that. You can find out more about the speakers on the page, and the link for this page, as we've said, is already in the chat. So Lillian, what were the main things people wanted to find out about today?
Yeah, so no surprises. Obviously, people were interested in the trends in using video for assignments in teaching, and people want to kind of keep up to date with pedagogy. You know, what's changing. Is there anyone doing anything with lip syncing, avatars, and AI video production? Learning about free tools for video production. Staff skills in this area, how to kind of encourage and develop those skills, how to make videos accessible to all students, making a more inclusive experience, tools and tips, best practices for making engaging, effective videos, and a really nice one about building community through video storytelling. So yeah, those are the key points that people want covered, which I think we will manage to meet.
Even if we don't cover some of those specific points, we've got 80 plus people in the room, in the chat, and so if there's anything where you've got a very specific thing and you think one of those 80 odd people might know, do pop it in the chat. We really encourage people to actively participate in the chat. So I think without any further ado, I will hand over to Lillian, who's going to introduce our first speakers, and I'll stop sharing so they can share.
Yeah, so the first speakers are Anne Marie and Richard Biles from University of Northampton, and they'll actually just do a summary about what they're going to be covering, which is mostly on staff development and video.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our presentation with the title Supporting Academic and Professional Staff Filmmaking. So just introducing the crew here. My name's Anne Misselbrook and I'm the e-learning multimedia resources developer. I'm joined with Richard Biles, who's learning technologist. Melanie Cole, we are featuring her in this presentation, but she's not able to attend. We all come from the University of Northampton. So this is Melanie Cole, and just focusing on her journey from 2016 to current day. In 2016, she was asking people to create videos for her. She was approaching the learning technology team, and she was actually, you know, not able to video herself, but asking others to do it. And now in current day, she's actually creating her videos herself. Now, part of this journey is coming from the fact that we moved to Waterside campus in 2018, and with that all the staff were provided with laptops. That meant that with their laptops they had apps, they had the camera app, video editor, and also using their mobile phones. And it was back in 2019 that Richard and I were talking about training staff in video production. And actually our first session started in April 2020, and that was by coincidence when COVID started. So this was a really good time for this. Now, it's not only Melanie, obviously it's all our staff that can attend training. Going back to 2016, we can see, first of all, the videos that were created by other people for Melanie. We've got an example of Xerte online toolkits on the screen, where the videos are embedded with quizzes, promoting the active blended learning approach of teaching. And then in 2018, you can see, still using Xerte online toolkits, which is a free software. You can see that now the videos are embedded by Kaltura Mediaspace, and this provides text captions. So Melanie got some really interesting and good student feedback, and this was broken down into themes. So obviously this is the learning experience of pre-registration student midwives and the skills for delivering babies, which is obviously, you know, really important. So some of the students were saying with this theme, learning preferences of student midwives, that they liked the visual learning. They liked to watch the skills that were being taken with the steps and the repetition. So, you know, one student says, I kept pausing it and making notes. Then the second theme, supporting mechanisms. So, you know, the students were saying you definitely knew at the end, because you'd done it so many times, you felt confident that when you'd done it, it was like, yes, you know, they've done it. And they also practice it together. So there was that collaboration and peer support. Then we've got the third theme, preparation to apply the skill. So we had a student actually said they corrected a senior house officer who put the mask on the wrong way. They were very motivated. They felt a lot more prepared when they were doing the hands-on clinical practice. So back here in 2019, this was our second shoot that Melanie had asked us to do. You can see it's quite labour intensive. There's quite a lot of us involved, a multi-camera shoot. And in fact, you know, this type of film now, Melanie is able to do independently on her own with her mobile phone and video editor. So this means it's scalable. I'm going to go over to Richard now, who's going to speak a little bit more about the training.
Thanks, Anne. So yeah, I joined Anne to help her with the videos back in 2019. And when we were working with Melanie, some of the things we found where we were developing these resources, and we found that they were really well received, as we've seen by the feedback, but actually it took quite a long time for us to both film them and edit them. And it was kind of a secondary experience for the staff, because they were sort of one step behind our edit. So it was quite time consuming for everybody. So what we wanted to do is scale this up and develop a training session. And my background is at the university is also as a media demonstrator. So I brought some of those skills with me. And also Anne's got a lot of experience making films herself. So we both had this kind of passion for filmmaking. And we looked at various options such as Adobe Premiere or Final Cut and things like that. And we found, having talked to somebody in our AV team, that we already had a video editor inside Windows 10, just called the Microsoft Video Editor. So we looked at that and actually found it was a really good, simple, easy to use solution that everybody had available. So it's a bit of a no-brainer for us to adopt that. As well as showing this software, we wanted people to try it out in our session. So we gave them some clips which they downloaded before the session. As you can see in the bottom right, there's some clips there of my dog, Daisy. And we asked them to put them together as a storyboard so that they could see how making clips and trimming them could help them tell a story. And really that was the basis of the session, how to improve your storytelling. We were also sharing good practice, so things like how to write a script, how to do a basic storyboard, all those kind of background skills that you need to be able to come to make a film with some intention and that really help people. So as I say, it was completely scalable, and in the last couple of years we've had over 200 attendees, and they've been from a wide range of different areas. So a couple of bits of feedback here. We've got Deborah on the left in a box saying she really enjoyed the storyboard aspect of it, learning how to do things in advance of the filming. So that planning. And on the second one there, we've got another member of staff, Chris, who says he really liked learning the software as well. So people got different things out of it. We also this year did some feedback from staff. So we ran out a survey. And we asked them, as a result of attending the session, were they able to create new video content? And as you can see there, the vast majority of people said yes. And where people have said maybe or no, Anne's been brilliant in creating a community of resources and a community of practice as well. So people can talk to each other, but they can also get access to other resources like guides and things like that, which can help to support them. Now, something that we couldn't do back in 2016, which has really improved hugely, is mobile recording using people's own device. So you could see back in some of those slides, we were providing cameras and tripods, and now we're basically the de facto method of recording would be using their own device. Again, we can see that the feedback's telling us that people found it very easy to use their own devices for filming. So it's a real progression there in terms of technology. Also, we wanted to know whether people found it useful seeing those examples of basic films being planned and produced. So in the case of the editor, it was using those clips, but also Andy's a really good area on how she developed a script on a guide for cleaning a fish tank. So we use these really practical things to help people to plan. So again, yeah, really good feedback.
So what worked well? So we've got that the practical activities worked really well. They were given video clips. They created their own little videos and shared with each other. And every little video clip was very different that they produced, even using the same video clips. Screen sharing, the small group numbers. We allowed 2 hours for the training session, so plenty of practical activity time. And obviously the knowledge sharing. So it was very accessible, and we taught obviously about the accessibility with captions and transcripts. Obviously the pre-production, production and post-production, pre-production being ultimately probably the largest time to take. Setting realistic expectations. We're not making a blockbuster movie, we're making a good tutorial, educational tutorial, effective, and then we did lots of communication. So we actually did call outs for staff to share their videos. This is now more current, and you can see screenshots of Melanie where she's produced her own video. So you can see that it's good. And now she's using Kaltura Media Space for the video platform, and we can see there you can get the stats from that as well as the quizzes. Still following active blended learning. We've got some links there that are available in our PowerPoint slides, which are available to you on the Future Teacher website. So please do look at the blogs. There are some videos, examples of staff that have created videos as well. And also Melanie tells her story in audio. So just back over to Richard now to do a bit of a summing up.
Yeah, I think just to conclude, so I mean, working with Melanie has been a real joy. She's definitely somebody who's been at the university, who's embraced video, and working with us, I think we've been able to see the process of how she's making videos, how they're impacting on the student experience, and what a really big difference that's made to midwifery students. And through the last few years, we've tried to scale that up for our training. I think we feel we've been really successful with that, and we've been able to see examples of videos being made for welcome videos for new students, for guides for students who are doing assessments, and also staff who've come to those sessions have been able to pass on those skills to students who are making videos for their assessments. So it's also had an impact pedagogically. So we feel that video is a really valuable and valid tool for staff, and it's been a real joy to be able to work with staff, and especially to work with Anne on the training for that. So yeah, we're really pleased to come along and to share that with you, and hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
That is superb timing. You're actually 2 minutes under, so we've got time. If anybody has specific questions they would like to ask using the microphone or using the text chat, then do so. Otherwise, if nobody has any specific questions, I'll wait for a little bit and then we'll go to our next speaker. But let's just see if anything else comes on. So Martin's quite keen for some more Melanies in the world. Any other questions? Steph's popped in a link there for a training platform. Thanks, Steph. And Mike Wald's popped in a link as well for AI generators.
Yeah,
AI video generators.
Naman and Kenji also shared some links there, Shortcut and Clipchamp further up the Zoom. We'll be sharing the meeting chat on our Future Teacher webpage as well. So don't worry, you'll still have access to all these links.
And that's one of the great things about the Future Teacher session. You get so many good links from other people as well. Okay, thank you very much to Anne and to Richard. What I'm going to do now is pass over to Rosemary to introduce Tony.
Thanks, Alistair. So it's my pleasure to introduce an academic working with video with their students. Tony Bailey from Heriot-Watt University is going to tell us a bit about using video for assessment. So Tony, it's all yours.
Hello, thank you very much indeed. I'm awfully sorry. So I'm having a little bit of trouble just sharing my screen at the moment. One of my monitors keeps flicking on and off. So I'm hoping we'll see. Are you okay to see that screen at the moment?
Can't see anything at the moment, Tony.
I'm awfully sorry.
Worst case, we can share screen, and you can. We've got your presentation on the site, haven't we?
Okay, I'm so sorry about this. This is
That's all right. Okay, I have the presentation. I have the presentation up. Shall I share my screen, Tony? And you just tell me to.
Thank you. I'm so sorry about this.
That's all right. Give me a second to find.
I'll share my I can share my screen here. I beg your pardon. I'll just share this screen here.
Okay, yeah, that'll be even better.
There we go. Are we okay there now?
We are in edit mode, so if you want to pop it into view mode.
That's it. Then fine. I'll try that. And now are we sharing okay?
No, it's probably come up on your other monitor. Use it. Go back to that, but use the mode next to the presentation mode, the one just to the left of it, because that will then show on your current screen. That's it. That's perfect.
Yeah, fabulous. Apologies, one of my monitors keep flickering on off. Apologies. Thank you very much for inviting me along, and apologies for a technological hitch just there. But hey, okay, it's real world, isn't it?
There you go.
So thank you. Thanks again for the colleagues just in the previous presentation. Some of those points I certainly noted myself over the last few years of teaching and producing video. When it comes to teaching, I'm very keen on students having that experience that's pleasurable when it comes to learning. Almost like giving students the opportunity to learn where they don't realise they're learning. It's a nice way to introduce skills and technologies to students if they don't feel stressed with the actual learning process. One important aspect of any kind of learning is actually be able to professionally write and communicate ideas. That some students are maybe more adapted to producing written work than others. They have those skills embedded from school days and from previous studies. They can communicate effectively in a written form. Some students maybe aren't quite adept at communicating in written language. Some courses require more written skills than perhaps other courses, and so when a student is confronted with needing to present information in a written form, it can be a little bit daunting for the student, not just to harvest and collate and present that information, but to actually physically produce that written information. So what I found with that stress and worry, some students maybe can affect their well-being. It can affect their self-esteem, and it can certainly affect their confidence in continuing onwards with their studies. Some students have come to me at the beginning of a particular course and say, I'm really worried that my writing isn't so good, I'm dyslexic, etc. And then there's maybe reasons why they find it hard, that they get held back with that form of communication. So it's really the communication of ideas that I'm interested in students being able to be able to produce, rather than actually written language. Is can they communicate that idea in an effective manner? Can they show their thought process? Can they show how they've arrived at a destination in their studies and their research? And can they present that information in such a way that is effective for perhaps the audience that they would be intending to produce information for within their careers? Certainly some careers, some of the students we have here, the careers aren't going to be academically based when they leave university. They're going to be out there in the world of fashion. They're going to be out there in the world of presenting visual information, and it's not always written information that is maybe required. So Students as well don't always read books. A lot of students maybe get their information directly from videos such as TikTok videos, YouTube tutorials, and social media. So they're more maybe adept at sitting back and watching information being presented to them rather than actively looking through books or reading academic papers. So if we can harvest the students a natural language of communicating to use, allow students to use that, perhaps we can get a richer interaction with their way they can communicate. One course that I present here, that I produce here, E18DP is a second year course for year 2 students studying across a range of programs. Some students are quite adept with certain digital skills. Some maybe aren't as quite adept with digital skills as other students. The course is in place to help them understand and engage with a range of digital technologies. And one of those range of digital technologies that we'll start to produce in is actually producing video to communicate ideas with. 2 briefs on within this course. One project, brief 1 is a team project, and brief 2, which is a larger portion of the graded brief, is a solo project. I just mentioned that because the brief 2 leads on from brief 1. So within the first brief, we put students into teams to originate, plan, shoot, edit, and deliver a range of videos. A video, beg your pardon. We give students a range of topics to base their filming, their film on, which is based on the experiences as a student. A little bit more on that in a moment. Only proviso on this is somewhere in the title sequence of this, they must feature a student life production as a sort of branding aspect to this particular part of this project. So the topics of the films, we allow students. We allow students to use their own lived experiences as a student as a basis for this particular part of the project. So basically, we put students in films, and we give them 5 weeks to produce a short film about being a student. So within that 5 weeks, we form teams, and students within those teams start to develop themselves some visual branding and to identify themselves as a video production company. So that brings in a nice bit of planning, a nice bit of teamwork there to originate some logo designs, some animated logo designs, and actually brand themselves as a team. They also, students within teams, plan specific ideas for their film subject, producing storyboards, and also we start to engage with also over that period with a range of different software solutions to actually produce and edit films. At the same time, we identify some copyright free audio and music that they can use within these projects, and start to discuss those issues that exist for not wanting to infringe on people's copyright. And then we look at how we can export and upload videos to video hosting platforms such as YouTube or Vimeo, or in our case, we use Microsoft Stream to actually host those videos. So it gives a whole production process, from originating an idea, from developing as a team storyboards and shooting that video, and editing and producing and delivering that video at the end of that particular period of time. Week 5 is a fabulous opportunity. All the students come together and we have a film show. We allow popcorn or other healthy snacks within that session, and we watch each other's films, and we give nice critiquing and commenting on those films during that session. So again, it brings in that sense of peer-to-peer engagement with learning, without making it too onerous, to make it a friendly and relaxed kind of atmosphere to view and appreciate each other's work during those sessions. The kind of topics that students identify and develop. We get documentary type films where students show that they're traveling to and from home. We get the beginning of the day, we get the traveling, we get some studies on campus, and we get the going home part, the stories that develop that kind of story arc. We get other stories which focus more on the social life of students, how students can cook, how they socialize together within a flat, and even going out shopping or nightlife work, nightlife activities that students take care of. We got lovely documentary stuff style videos that our students produce, which show us some workshop activities, such as we've got a knitting and weave workshops. So we get 2 5-minute long documentaries made about how to produce some weave or some knitting. We also get students showing us what it's like to actually produce an item from origination, from sketching to digital work to originating a garment, a whole story arc there of that development, almost like a how to do videos produced as part of their story. We get students producing interviews of ex-students. So they interview ex-students asking, what was it like when you was at university? What did you enjoy at university? How have you gone on after university? What of your studies? What did you remember most at university? And how has that affected your future careers? So we get some lovely bit of primary research done producing those videos. And this year, some students really surprised me with a totally reflective video that they produced about the problems of being a student, emotional issues and social issues that might affect their actual functioning as a student. Quite heart-rendering videos. We watched these during our film shows, and I was actually emotionally affected by the reflective commentary that students put on the top of these videos just there. Very, very personal, reflective comments that students were happy to share with the rest of the members of the class. And certainly I would not have expected that to happen in any kind of written reflective commentary, that kind of emotive outpouring from students there. So absolutely fabulous videos produced by students with those different subjects. Students and old students have produced videos before. So one of the aspects we do bring in during those 5 weeks is we engage students with a range of softwares that we can use to produce videos. We look at video editing techniques, and as you use one particular piece of software that's specific for video editing. Students are made aware there's plenty of other software options that are out there that are free, like Richard earlier on mentioned Windows Movie Editor, which is available on Microsoft platforms, and we've got iMovies, etc. out there as well, which does a similar kind of job. But the choice of video editing software that I use is Adobe Rush. Adobe Rush is a very easy to engage with piece of software producing and editing videos. There's a free basic package that students can use to begin to engage with editing softwares, editing film, beg your pardon. And the beauty of Adobe Rush is it's a very user-friendly piece of software, but the skills and the actual project files that are produced using that software can be exported into professional video editing software, which is Adobe Premiere Pro. So if students really get the bug for wanting to engage with filmmaking, then they can take these projects and these skills and immediately apply those to a higher end video editing package. So that's a reasoning for using Adobe Rush. It's very well supported with online tutorials and example movie files, etc. So that is a piece of software thoroughly recommended for students to use. It's also device independent. Students can use phones and tablets to actually do filming and editing, and use desktops or laptops to continue editing. So it's quite an integrated software solution. Another piece of software we use, again, is free, is Adobe Express. Adobe Express, one of the options on Adobe Express allows students to actually produce slideshows with commentary. So it's a similar kind of process to in Adobe, a similar kind of process to in PowerPoint, where students can produce graphics on a slide and add a voiceover, and then export that as a movie with all of those slides and voiceovers linked up together with some background music on it to produce reflective to produce slideshows, beg your pardon, pre-recorded slideshows with voiceovers. So that's a very, very useful piece of software. Also within Adobe Express, we can produce posters and basic graphics from basic templates, but we can also animate a lot of those. So we can set up documents to allow us an introduction to motion graphics within Adobe Express. And those motion graphics movie files can then be exported and then imported as part of the whole video production production process. So it's a very useful piece of free software that's available out there. It's a very easily learning curve. It's intuitive and it's free out there as well, which is always a bonus when we can get something free. So all those software techniques and software technologies are then applied within the course I'm producing for a second brief, which is a solo project brief that asks students to look at a range of topics, and students have the choice within this second part of a project to produce more of a traditional magazine type format. They can produce slideshows with voiceovers, or they can produce a video, or a combination of those forms of media. In the old days, it used to be called multimedia or interactive multimedia in the old days. So again, this is what we can go for here. So what I found is at the moment with this year's cohort, a lot of students have opted to produce a traditional magazine, but then they've also produced slideshows to allow us a little bit extra just there.
Hi, Tony. I'm really sorry. This has been brilliant, and there's lots of comments that you'll see in there. But in terms of timing, the bird bell has spoken.
Apologies, and, I missed the first bell there, Alistair. I'm so sorry about that. But basically, that's the end of my slideshow. I was just going to say that the actual topics that students engage with on brief 2, but that is perfectly fine. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. And
thank you.
What I've done is I popped the link in the chat to the presentation so people can see the last few. I think lots of people are very excited about the way students were being used, communities were being built, reflection was taking place. So really sorry to have to cut you off in there. And I'm sorry that you missed the first of the bird bells. Sometimes the auto leveling in Zoom will kind of cut it out. But
yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
And again, if you've got any specific questions you want to ask, I know there's lots of positive comments. If you've got questions, pop them in there and Tony will answer those as we go through. And I'm going to pass over to Lillian now to introduce Ellie.
Yeah, so without further ado, Ellie Richardson from Lincoln, I saw her present at another webinar, and I kind of thought the material is so good for our future teacher audience. So over to Ellie to tell us about what students want from the videos they learn from.
Thanks, Lillian. Hi, everybody. So I'm Ellie Davison from the University of Lincoln Foundation Studies Centre. And we've flipped all of our science and maths curriculum. So our knowledge transfer is taking place in a suite of video micro lectures, which we release weekly for each module. And then all our face-to-face time can be used for interactive, cognitively rich activities. So we've been doing this for a few years now. So we thought we'd gather our student feedback in focus groups, and they've told us what it is that's really important to them when it comes to their video lectures. They would love to have been here with us today, but they're all actually sitting in an exam as we speak. So they'd much rather be here, but sadly, you're stuck with me, but I have put some specific quotes for each point on the slide. So here is a top 10 rundown of what they think is important. So in at number 10, we have got the provision of modifiable versions of the resources that we're using to present. So anything that we've got in the background of our videos, we've also uploaded with the video so that students can interact with them independently and modify them for their needs should they wish to. So I'm meaning things like changing the colour combinations of the background and the text, the fonts, the sizes, making sure that students can interact with the alt text for any images that we're displaying, and that everything is accessible via screen readers. So as accessible as possible, making sure that we've got those modifiable resources alongside the videos. Then in at number 9, the next thing that they've told us is they want flexibility. So flexible engagement in terms of when and where they are watching our videos. So we make sure that we always release the videos at least a week in advance. We all know that students have really busy lives, lots of responsibilities. They're juggling caring, working, health issues, and they need to be able to fit these into their lives. We've got students watching them at work, in the car, you know, while they're cleaning. And so they need that time to be able to do that. But while some of our students really, really appreciate that flexibility, others in our cohort prefer a bit of structure And this might be particularly our neurodiverse students in our cohort. So as well as that, we have timetabled watch slots where cohorts can come together online and watch the video lectures together with the lecturers as well, so that we can have any immediate discussions, we can answer any immediate questions, and that scaffolding of the learning really supports others in our cohort. So flexibility all around. At number 8, it's that they need to have to watch the videos. There needs to be something in them that necessitates viewing before they come to the sessions. And their absolute pet hate is if a lecturer repeats the video content in a session. It's very easy to think, oh, that's really important, I better kind of repeat that in case somebody hasn't watched the video. But actually we need to be catering to the engaged, switched on student who has done everything that we've asked them to do. Otherwise they're going to become a disengaged student. So not repeating video content is really important to our students. Obviously we expand on it and apply it, but no repeating. And then it frees up all that face-to-face time for the application and the synthesis and the debate that we really want to get our teeth into in education. At 7, we've got the question about FaceTime. So there are many reasons to have our face displayed next to our video content or alongside it. And our students tell us that that's really important for relationship building. If a student's worked through a topic with you on a video and they then come to a seminar discussion with you, it can really help to break down those initial shyness barriers. They already feel like they know you. So that can be really good in terms of student engagement. However, I should also say it's also excellent for lip reading, of course, if your face is visible. But there are downsides. So little bits of research is showing that once you get into the nitty-gritty, especially with us with science and maths, it can help students to focus on the content if that face moves away and we zoom in on whatever it is we're supposed to be concentrating on. So we've gone in our area for a balance. We have introductions and endings to our videos that are us speaking to camera alongside whatever we're doing, help the relationship building, but then we disappear in the middle for the nitty-gritty content. And actually that has the added benefit that editing our content is really easy if our faces aren't there. It's better than us jumping about and moving. If you want to add something in, or if you've dyed your hair and you're not the same hair colour as you were last week when you recorded it, it can make those videos much less labour intensive. And it makes them reusable in future years. If you can just add in a little bit of extra, something's happened in the world, let's talk about this. We want to work smart when we're producing videos. At number 6 from our students, we need to remember to internationalise. So there's going to be lots of students in our cohort who perhaps haven't grown up in our local context. This might be learning in an additional language. It might be that they haven't engaged with the kind of standard route into our education. So let's avoid assuming cultural knowledge and using those colloquialisms that just pepper our language all the time. I don't even realise I'm doing it, and they're going, what do you mean collect together my bits and bobs? What are my bits and bobs? So think about the language and make sure it's appropriate for an international audience. Let's talk about this. Do you remember when that happened in, with Grant in EastEnders 10 years ago? Well, they've probably not seen it, so let's avoid that. And it can be really helpful if we're providing that key terminology. So for all of our topics, we have a glossary with the key terminology so students can use that as a reference and a guide. Okay, number 5, so the 5th most important thing according to our students is that there has to be added value to watching that video. And the main request is please don't read the slides. They can do that from a PowerPoint themselves. And let's all remember that the value added to a video lecture is us. It is our expertise, it is our ability to make connections with that information. We need to give a reason to watch. They want the extra tidbits, the examples, the guidance. And we can introduce live experiences. Like Anne was saying this morning with her healthcare videos, it doesn't have to be just talking over a PowerPoint. If you're talking about lab experiments, let's show them the endpoint they're looking for on the video. If you're teaching maths, it can be really powerful to have your camera on your notebook, whether that's digital or physical notebook, and go through a worked example. Let's model what we want our students to be doing. And I think probably our most popular video ever was when our life science lecturer last year filmed the live birth of her dog's puppies, and then brought the puppies in to the seminar. So we can't all do that, but they do like live experience. Okay, at number 4, another kind of flexible engagement. So this time, how the students are watching the videos. We were quite taken aback by how many students are watching them on their phones. We kind of envisaged laptops and computers because that's how we were recording them, but you know, we were wrong. Lots of students are watching on their phone. So my top tip would be, once you've recorded a video, go and watch it on your own phone, because sometimes it can look quite different. It might be that things have been chopped off, or that you thought that your face was appearing next to your resources and actually it's only showing one of those, and you need to tweak the settings. Bookmark sections so that students can jump between them, and then think about the speed. Students like to speed up and slow down depending on their needs. And does your video really need to be highest quality? If a student's sharing bandwidth with 3 siblings, you know, in rural Lincolnshire, do we need the highest quality video, or do we need just what's required so that students can watch it? In at number 3 is embedding understanding checks. So it's very easy to watch something passively and actually not to be concentrating on it all. So our students have said they really appreciate it when we embed quizzes or engagement checks every few minutes or so throughout our videos. It might be literally multiple choice questions upon the content to see if students have understood, and then they can direct their own learning if there's an issue or come and seek support. Or it might be start-stop activities where the video stops and we say, go and try this example yourself. You know, press yes when you're ready to carry on and we'll talk through it together. Or it might be signposting. Is this clear to you? Yes, carry on. If not, here's the drop-in where we can be talking about this and we can signpost to particular support. So we can really look into the back of those videos and see who it is that needs us a little bit more. Okay, nearly there. So our second request from our students is that micro lectures really do remain micro lectures. So concentration span is changing for good or for bad, but students get very used to watching these short snippet videos on their social media and so on. So they've sort of told us around about 10 minutes is the optimum length of a lecture video. Obviously, you might not get all your content into 10 minutes, but they're asking us to divide it up. So it's bite-sized chunks that they can sort of pick off and really feel that sense of achievement when they've had a video, or they can go and make a cup of tea in between or give themselves a Smartie. And we have to be careful about overburden. So if we're teaching by flipped learning, we have to remember that if we're asking students to engage with pre-learning and to take that time out of their busy lives to do that, we have to shift the learning so that we're asking them to do less the other side of that face-to-face session. We can't just increase the expectation, we shift it to before the session. So remembering that students have busy lives. And then finally, drum roll, the most important thing that students have said they want in their video lectures is accurate captions. So not just captions, but accurate captions. So we were fully expecting that captions would be very important for students with hearing impairments and to make sure that they could access the content. But what took us by surprise was how important captions were to the whole cohort. Whether it's making cognitive connections between seeing that terminology in a caption and hearing it being spoken or seeing something on the screen, whether it's supporting students with accents, with language development, can be really important for our international students, for example. And then the other thing they've said is they're using our transcripts as learning resources. So downloading them and using them to structure their notes or as a summary. They are using these in different ways than we expected. And I don't know if you've got teenagers at home, but I have, and they're literally sitting there watching the TV with the captions on. That has become the norm. Now it's what students are expecting from us. So for me, accuracy of captions is an investment that students find incredibly valuable. And that is that from our students. So thank you to the Lincoln Science Foundation here, and I'm really happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ellie. That was wonderful timing, despite the fact that the bird bell in the middle was a little bit delayed because I was so busy taking notes. So thank you very much for that. We've now got a time where we can have general discussion, but I think Lillian, is Emily here?
Yeah, Emily's here, and I just wanted to bring Emily in to share a resource that she shared in another meeting I was in with Emily, and I thought it would be really good for Emily to share it with our audience here because it's about 360 video. Yes, Emily, would you like to come on and say anything about it?
Yeah, so I've put the link in the chat. This is a project we're involved in, a European Erasmus project. Doing work promoting the use of 360 video in educational settings. It's just about coming to an end now. It's produced some software called Vivista, which is freely available, which allows you to make 360 videos and to add in the interactions, the questions, links off to documents, other videos, etc. So that's one of the big things that have come out of it, but it also has examples of 360 videos that the various partners have developed and are using, and it has a full-blown MOOC as well for teaching staff how to storyboard, create, use 360 video. So we're just trying to put it out there in case those resources are useful to people.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I'm quite interested and very keen to kind of tap into resources that are freely available for education use, I think. Yeah, I wonder if
can I just check, because I didn't spot in the chat, did you put in the chat, in the recent bit of the chat, Emily? Is it the SEPA one, SEPA 360?
It is the SEPA one, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I've got that open. Lovely, thanks, Lillian.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely amazing. So yes, lots of questions have been answered in the chat, but I think it would be really good to kind of bring together some of those discussions and maybe let our speakers expand on it. So I think lots of people really impressed with the community of practice approach that Anne and Richard have going at Northampton. And I just wondered if you wanted to speak about that a little bit, Anne and Richard, that community and how they help each other.
I was going to let Anne come in on that, but I'll pick up on that one. Yeah, so when we run the sessions, we run them with quite small groups, so around 6 or so. And a lot of that is to allow them to do a lot of screen sharing in those 2-hour sessions. So as they're doing the editing, they're showing their edit in progress to each other. And we find that that's a really big benefit, because as they're showing each other, they're showing how they're using the software, but also the results of their edit. So that's kind of the start of that little community. We then put the staff onto a Blackboard organization where they carry on through discussions. And Anne's really good at going sending emails to staff after the session, asking them to share their videos with us, sort of sending regular updates, those sort of things. So that's all done through the Blackboard organization. And then as people are posting their links back to us, they're doing it for our video platform, Kaltura, and we're putting those links into the organization and they're shared there with comments. So people are able to ask each other how they made the films and sort of critique each other's work if you like. So it's been really good process to show those films, because of course, often when you're making a film, if it's you're not really sure what other people think of it, so they've been able to put post drafts there and ask for feedback and things like that. So that's in a sense small community but growing has been a real benefit of us offering those training sessions, because I think before we were doing the training, people really didn't see each other's videos. They were just sitting on their own sites. And it's great. I mean, often in our training sessions, the staff will start talking to each other and we're kind of standing back going, they're sharing their practice. And that's brilliant. That's when our training session really is at its best. So, and it's a joy for us to see it as well. So yeah, we really enjoy that part of our training.
That sounds really good. And I'll bet, the same applies to students as well, doesn't it, Tony? When they watch each other's, do you have crit sessions for their videos?
Yes, indeed. In week 5, when we have basically we have a film show, so it's nice to see the film. We very, very informal setting, which is I very much like about it. The videos they're producing maybe aren't perceived as being, should we say, academic videos, but when we have a students producing work that could perhaps be used by a recruitment team to promote weaving or knitting activities, that they're producing verging on professional type videos for a particular purpose with a little bit of refinement, they could be out there in the public domain, being perhaps used by our marketing teams, for example, but from the student experience, and that's what I like about it, is the fact that these videos are showing from a student perspective, and it's nice to get that collaborative feedback from peers as well. When we talk about the camera work, we talk about maybe the lighting and what have you. There's a lot of peer-to-peer interaction about what technology they use, the settings they've used on their iPhones or their phones they've used. So you get those informal discussions happening, and people say, "Oh, I really like the way you did that shot. I really like the way you made that edit." We use some split screen techniques. We use a whole range of video edit techniques, and to see how that develops, you see students go, "Oh, we could use that idea." So you get it's a really nice, and it's really informal. It's not like we're going to do a critique feedback session. It's just talking about what we're watching on television, basically, which is really nice, very informal.
That's brilliant, thank you. And Ellie, I think we're all amazed at that commitment that Lincoln have to flipped video, and I don't know how many of us have been as bold as that, and kind of implemented it across an entire school, I guess, or is it across the entire university? Do you want to speak to that?
It's across the Foundation Studies Centre, which is a year 0 for the College of Science. That became through COVID, so we decided to be decisive and try and be accessible right at the beginning of the lockdown, so that everyone could interact with our resources and learn whatever their environment and their situation. But we stuck with it because the students prefer it. So for us, going back would have been a backward step. It's gone really well.
And I think there's quite a lot of discussion and interest in the technology that allows us to embed quizzes into videos to make it a little bit more interactive.
Mike's got a hand raised.
Yeah, I've put it in the chat and Lillian's put it in the chat, and I think it needs to be faced. Video is a visual medium, and therefore people are talking about accessibility. If you give any information in visual form that's not available, in another form, it's not accessible. And I'd be interested in how people are tackling this. If you're going to put in audio description, fine. But if you're not, the statement, don't give the information on the slide, we can read it, is fine for the people who can read it, but it's not if you can't read it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I often go for walks and listen to podcasts, and it's amazing the rich world of information available through podcasts. And it just goes to show you can, so long as you have that mindset, even if you're teaching through video, to imagine the student is accessing that only through their headphones, then that allows you to kind of ensure that you're creating the most accessible medium possible, easily kind of creating alternative formats with the transcripts as well. Yeah, that's a very good point there. And yeah, I think it's Kenji that mentioned, we're looking forward to AI advancing and helping to create more accurate captions. And I tell you, something I've been researching on AI and assistive technologies, the assistive technologies that are helping to improve the way people with speech impediments can be understood. All of that is going to be really helpful for any of us who have accents, who are being recorded, and we're getting our videos turned into, captions. All that technology is going to be really helpful. So yeah, I wonder if anyone else has been playing with any AI video related materials that want to come in and share any insights as well.
Ellie's just had her hand up for a moment, so by all means, kind of put your hand up as well if you've got some insights, or pop it in the chat. But can we take Ellie now?
Yeah, just to answer the previous comment, which I think is really valuable.
Yeah.
Perhaps I said what I said slightly wrong. I absolutely wouldn't miss out any of the information that's on your slides. It would just be about reading verbatim from the slide content. What you're going to do is talk round it so that you're adding extra information and making it much more interesting than a couple of bullet points on your slide. That's just narration. So I'm talking about extra, not missing anything out. And just to answer Lillian, I think AI's got great potential in terms of our workloading, but what the students want is to get to know us. So I think it's going to stay important that it's us they're engaging with over video, and then the same person that's offering them academic support and the same person that's maybe leading discussion. So I don't think relationship building will go away. I think it's probably going to stay and become even more important as we go into a more kind of disjointed world.
I think the point that Mike was making is also not confined to blind users or visually impaired users, because if you've got a complex graph or something on the screen, sometimes there's plenty of dyscalculic or dysgraphic students who would look at that and think, I have no idea how to interpret that. So just taking a moment to say, instead of saying, have a look, I've explained, or this is all explained on the graph or something, to be able to take that moment and say, what we can see on the graph is that the trend line for this is that, and the trend line for something else is something else. And that can actually help all your learners.
Yeah, and having really informative alt texts for any images that students can engage with, again, is another additional feature that's really good.
Yeah.
And I think Julie's put in the chat about her research about AI avatars and instructional videos, and learners are not keen on this. And, personally, I'm the same. I would not, you want to see the human, don't you? But in terms of kind of the volume of stuff that people might want to play with in future, and it's our preference now, but we just don't know what the preferences of the next generation will be. And it's quite interesting to kind of expand our range of tools as well. Yeah. So I wonder if Julie wants to mention something more about her use of AI avatars and the research on that.
Hi guys.
Hi, Julie.
I wasn't really ready to speak, but yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. Basically, I wanted to do a comparison, and it's just like a little assignment of part of my PhD thing. But I wanted to do a comparison between like AI generated avatars and animations, and then the typical lecture recording that you might have as part of like what the university provides. And so my research, which is quite a small kind of thing, small survey study, was just looking at that, and I'm still analyzing the results at the moment, but so far it seems like the animation was quite popular. The lecture recording style came in second, and the AI style was not liked, just because of like the still very robotic nature of the avatar. And I used AI audio as well, so I kind of like I used some samples of my voice. There's about 100 samples, but yeah, just generally, I don't think that the AI tools that are available at the moment are advanced enough to kind of like mimic humans exactly. And I think just learners didn't like that.
Yes, and I think kind of like the kind of creator maker space, the more technology is automating things, the more we're hanging on to the craft and the human, because that's what we'll specialize in, that's what we'll be better at than anything else. So yeah, I think inclusion kind of means making sure that a whole spectrum of opportunities are explored, formats, and things, that's absolutely fabulous, because one thing I'm conscious of, for instance, is that students who may not want to be filmed themselves may find actually being able to use an avatar to talk for them may be quite empowering. So that there may be a slight flip side in the future where just having that choice might be quite good for everyone.
Now, as we hit the magic 2:00 and people have to get off to other commitments, what would be great is if in the text chat you were able to put just one thing that you're going to take away from the session. That might be that you're going to look at the slides from the presenters again. It might be that there's a particular tool or some licensing issues. It might be a whole range of things, or you're going to try something with your own learners. So if just before you leave, if you could pop something in the text chat about what one thing you're going to take away, that would be great.
And before we go, before I press stop on the recording, I just want to thank our presenters for giving up their time and sharing their expertise with us.
Yeah.
And also just to say, by the way, our future teacher team is now 5, and that includes Rosemary and Teresa, who absolutely help us to organize everything and ensure our speakers get their digital badges, and that we do all our promotions, etc. So do join the future teacher community if you don't already, if you're not already part of that community. Here's the JISC mail list there. And that's how you're going to find out about our future webinars. And the next one we have coming up is the 25th of May, and the sign-ups are already available as well. It's a special because May is very much an inclusive, like Global Accessibility Awareness Day is on the 18th of May. So all the time around it, lots of people are doing lots and lots of free webinars and learning about these things. So we've opted to do our May Future Teacher session on inclusive practice again, but on a strategic level. So we look forward to welcoming you back and seeing you again on the 25th of May.
Indeed. We've got some great speakers for May.